I will now call the board meeting for the Wiseburn Unified School District for November 16th, 2022 to order. If you've been with us this evening, welcome back. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
Oh, motion.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. I see no one here. And any comments for open session, for public, rather, from the public?
Go from the public for closed session. No.
All right, then we will adjourn to closed session and return afterwards forthwith. Welcome back, everybody. We will reconvene the November 16th, 2022 Wiseburn Unified School District Board meeting. Good to have you with us. Thank you to our volunteer board members. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, to our cabinet, to our guests, thank you for coming. And of course, anybody at home who's joining us, thank you for joining this evening. This is our regularly scheduled board meeting. We have two special presentations tonight, one on student health and wellness, and one on our school facilities program update, as well as some special announcements from some guests as well, and included. So, I mean, we've already adopted the agenda because we're reconvening in our new format. We have not said the Pledge of Allegiance, so we'll go there. Let's see. Can we have Dr. Ingram, would you please be so kind?
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will turn shortly to public comments. Before we do, as we always do, we look to share your thoughts shared with us on the Wiseburn website, the youth district website. There were no thoughts shared to share, so there's no need for me to consolidate them. So we do please ask you to continue to join us in public comment, to share your thoughts. We want to learn from you. We want to hear from you. And we appreciate your feedback. With that said, Ms. Ubaki, do we have any public comments this evening, either in the room or online?
I do not currently have any online. I do have one public comment.
Chief Ishii, great to have you with us. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, President and fellow board members and the superintendent, Silvers. I just wanted to take a moment. It's been a while since I've been here and to be able to talk. And I apologize. It's been a while. You know, things get busy, but I just wanted to take a moment. I've announced my retirement. I'll be leaving the police department here at the end of this year, and wanted to take this opportunity to, on behalf of the Hawthorne Police Department, really thank the partnership and everything that we've done throughout, well, for me, the last 32 years working with the school district and protecting the city, but also as the last 4 years as the chief of police for Hawthorne. You know, as I look back and as you know, leadership really sets the tone for the organization. And I knew that coming in as a chief of police, one of our primary goals, or my goal, was to make sure that our partnerships with all of our schools were as strong as possible. And we considered it as a partnership. And who knew that a year into we'd get into COVID and everything that came along with that, and all the things that we've dealt with. But as one of the chiefs said to me early on when we're going through all the things, it's a privilege to lead, but it's truly a privilege to lead an organization under crisis. And so having a great team, having great partnerships prior to that really got us through, got our community through all these years, especially the past few years. So, for me, as I come here and say goodbye, I just wanted for you to know that our partnership continues to be strong. It's our organizational culture to make sure our relationships are strong, especially with our students and our faculty that are in our community. I think I've heard there's a wellness portion coming up afterwards. And, one of the things as a chief was to make sure we took care of our employees with all the issues that come up, and taking care of our employees of officer wellness is a huge priority. But also as we start to, and I'm sure you're seeing this, our students' wellness coming out of COVID is a priority for us to be a partner with you. I've always said that our police department should be a mentor, but also I wanted our kids to meet our police officers in a good situation first and not in a bad situation for the first time. So our school resource officers, our patrol officers really made a huge effort and commitment to making sure that they were great mentors for our kids. And you never know how you affect somebody down the road. And we consider making a difference a privilege, and we never took that for granted. So we'll continue on with our partnership, and it'll be just as strong. And yeah, that's it. I just wanted to personally come and say thank you for your partnership and your support, and we will continue to do our best to serve our community and serve you as the police department in the city of Hawthorne. So on behalf of the Hawthorne Police Department, on behalf of me, for the last 4 years, thank you for being with us. Really have to really thank Dr. Silvers here for really being a great partner. Had many conversations throughout the last 4 years, and he's been a great partner with us. So it's relationships that count. And so that's it. I just wanted to say thank you very much for last 4 years.
You mentioned the word partnership repeatedly. We would echo that refrain. Thank you for being a good partner. Thank you for your leadership in the partnership and the relationship. And obviously we look forward to the vital partnership moving forward. So thank you again.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Best wishes on the next chapter.
Yes, I don't know what it'll be, but look forward to it. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Definitely appreciate the partnership with HPD. We'll move to item 3.3, a special presentation on student health and wellness. Dr. Ingram, I know you'll be presenting. Dr. Silvers, would you like to set us up?
I thought, Dr. Ingram does a good job introducing herself. So no, I'm just kidding. I wanna, thank Monique for, I think one of the themes today is really being thankful for, what we have, where we've come this year. We're obviously getting close to Thanksgiving break, but the amount of detail and attention to detail that Dr. Ingram puts into everything she does, is really remarkable. And so I think this presentation alone only speaks a little bit to that, but really the work behind student wellness, the commitment to our families, to our students, to staff, and just really looking at the system of student wellness on campus, just really is remarkable. So thank you, Dr. Ingram. Looking forward to
All right, thank you. All right, so as you know, I'm here today to talk about student health and wellness. A lot of times I get asked, what is that? What does that even mean? What does that look like in Wiseburn and in our schools? And so tonight I hope to share with you some action items for this year and also some goals. All right, so we'll start with a why. Wiseburn takes a whole child approach to achievement, and that's made clear through our district assurances. And when we talk about the phrase student health and wellness, we're really talking about things like social emotional skills, mental health, the extent to which students are engaged in their learning, in their classrooms, with their peers, in their schools, family engagement, culturally sensitive practices, and even staff development and support. And I think just addressing these things speaks to our compassion for students, but also all of these items on this list are linked in research to academic outcomes. Okay, so a few weeks ago, the principals presented to you, they showed you this funnel, which helped them explain a comprehensive and collaborative approach that we take to student outcomes. And you'll remember that starting kind of at the how-to planning level, there are meetings that happen a few times a year with cabinet members, site level administrators, teachers, leadership members from each school, and counselors to plan. And then that just kind of filters down and trickles down to the classroom level. So through principal meetings that happen regularly, school leadership meetings, and then teachers working together, our students receive some great instruction. I think that's a great approach, but it is missing a component, and that is the individual. So if we are embracing an individual approach to the way we address education, then we're thinking about things like students' interests, their strengths, their needs, and their cultural practices. If we're talking about health and wellness, like one way to think about it is through an invisible backpack. So if we think about the fact that each student is carrying their experiences, their beliefs, their challenges, their strengths with them to school every day, just like any adult would, we might not be able to see that they might have had a fight with a parent that morning, and so they're frustrated coming into the classroom, or that they've had some sort of experience that is distracting them or could be distracting to them receiving the educational experience that we would hope for. An example of this was with a lower elementary school student. A teacher called a counselor. A student wasn't themselves. They were upset, they were aggressive, they weren't engaging in their learning. And so instead of taking a disciplinary approach and saying, go see the principal, or here's a consequence, here's a punishment for not meeting the expectations, they called a counselor for help. And so it turns out that this student was wearing pants on a hot day. They wanted to wear shorts. There were no clean shorts, according to mom, once we got in touch with them. And so this kind of simple thing that was a very big deal to this student and impacted their entire day was addressed, right? The student was able to regulate their emotions with the help from other adults, and then was able to kind of get back on task to learn, right? And so if that hadn't been done, if the teacher wasn't able to recognize those things that that student carried in their backpack with them that day, then they would have been distracted from learning. Another example is a positive asset. So recently, a family came to a school site to share cultural experience, so to educate students in the classroom and share this piece of the student's life with other students. So this is advantageous because, one, the student gets to share a piece of themselves with their peers. Two, it makes the classroom more culturally relevant to that student. It provides the other students with an opportunity to decentralize mainstream practices and experiences. And then it also promotes family engagement. So again, all things that are related to academic outcomes. Okay, so then this is our revised funnel that we'll work with for the rest of this presentation. All right, so we take this funnel and we're talking about action items and how it all works together. So I'll talk about 4 things today. Again, my actions and my hopes for this year: to develop policies for board review related to student wellness and health, to engage the Weisburn community in culturally sensitive practices, to elevate practices related to social emotional learning and mental health, and to empower teachers, parents, and caregivers to pursue home and school partnerships. And I'll talk a little bit more about each of these things. Beginning with policy. Policy serves as the glue that holds all of those pieces to the funnel together, especially as we think about initiatives and efforts that are related to those softer things like social emotional learning, diversity, inclusion, a sense of belonging. And so we want to make sure that our policies are aligning with our district assurances so that we're able to provide direction to employees, students, and families regarding expectations, behaviors, and rights. A second action I'm focusing on is engaging students, teachers, families, administrators, in culturally sensitive practices. There are different ways that we'll be looking at this year. One, culturally sensitive curriculum and instruction. An easy way to look at the importance of this is with the idea of windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors. So books should be all of those things for students. Books should serve as a window for students where they're able to gain an understanding and see experiences beyond their own that are happening. Mirrors where they're able to see themselves in what they're reading and what they're learning. And sliding glass doors where they're able to engage in what they're learning and what they're reading. So with that, it promotes learning. And in order to do that, I'm working with principals to do a book study to help teachers learn about this concept and how to implement this practice. And then they'll also be introduced to a tool where they can apply that tool to audit the current readings that they use in their classrooms. A second component, positive behavior interventions and support. So we want to focus on culture. Our schools do a great job of implementing PBIS, which is just a system or a template really to help set positive expectations for students and to celebrate the behaviors when they meet those expectations. So instead of focusing on punitive aspects of behavior, we're encouraging them to do the things we want them to do. Although this is a great practice, recent research suggests that there wasn't a diversity component to this template or this structure. And so there is a new framework that we're working with that I've been introducing to our PBIS teams at each of our sites that does include a diversity component, and it introduces another acronym, but it makes it makes it more practical. So we're working on validating students, affirming them, building relationships and rapport, and then helping them bridge their own cultures with mainstream culture. A lot of our teachers participated in a training related to this last year. More will be participating this year. WEF has offered to contribute funds to support this as well. And so this is something that has gotten going, and teachers are liking it so far. We will continue with our ACTS work, our Committee for Achieving a Culture of Togetherness and Support. With our inclusion activities, we're hoping to add a component of ambassadors so that we have staff members and parents and caregivers working together to do simple things to promote inclusion and equity, and also larger things depending on people's capacity. And then finally, staff development, where we continue to work on educating each other, providing opportunities for reflection and discussion, providing teachers with tools, and then working with teachers in different areas as needed. Okay, the third area is to elevate social emotional learning and mental health practices. Our counselors are really working towards building a safe culture, promoting equitable practices, and promoting family and school and home partnerships. A lot of the things that they're doing are already in place, and they're refining those practices. So if we start from the right with second step is our social emotional learning curriculum that's implemented from TK through 8th grade. This is the second year of implementation for our elementary schools, the third year for our middle school. And so as you can see, the planning for second step goes all the way from that how-to level, which is that larger collaborative level, down to the individual with implementation. Our counselors provide regular trainings to teachers, consultations, so as needed, teachers meeting one-on-one or in small groups to develop a skill that they might want to use, or to ask questions about how they can address certain concerns. Our counselors do classroom visits, so to implement a specific lesson that might be of interest or of help to a teacher or the students. One example was we had a student who felt bad because another student made a comment about the texture of their hair. And this was a topic that the teacher was not familiar with and just wanted some support. And so the teacher and the counselor worked together to prepare some readings for the students and some developmentally appropriate conversations that the classmates could have together to help that student build their confidence, but also to help just kind of normalize differences. And then finally, the individual level for students who benefit. Question?
Oh, no, no,
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to hold it in.
From additional support, our counselors help facilitate team meetings. There's of course school-based counseling, and then risk assessments as necessary. The final component is empowering teachers and caregivers to build partnerships. And so we're doing this through regularly scheduled workshops. Ms. Cappy, Ms. Mazzarella and I have talked about providing opportunities for families to come together to learn about different topics, to really connect with each other, especially families who are having similar experiences, and then just an opportunity to dialogue back and forth about ways that we can help support families a little bit better. I mentioned the ACTS ambassadors. Recently, we had our first collaboration meeting where representatives from PTA, WEF, and our school sites all came together to talk about what everyone's doing, things that we can do differently, just to kind of align ourselves on the same page and make sure that we're meeting the needs of our families and our students. And then there are also school site initiatives that are promoting partnerships as well. Like Dana has a new structure to workshops where they identify the needs of students based on data and then invite those families to come. And so students are educated, parents and caregivers are educated, and parents and caregivers also have a chance to connect with each other. And that is the plan for the year. Do you have any questions for me? Yes.
First of all, I really appreciate what you're doing and the plan that you've laid out for us. Thank you.
Thank you for describing this situation, you know, the environment and the plan that you're reaching forward. As a parent and as a member of this board for a while, one of the things that is obviously important to all of us, especially young children as they're growing, is their self-image and their self-confidence, their confidence in themselves to make decisions and to act on those decisions. And that's what you're talking about here. I didn't hear, and maybe it's built in, is the children actually role playing some of these behaviors, the positive behaviors, and I wonder if that's happening.
If they're role playing the positive behaviors.
Yeah, like the comment that was made by one child about another child.
Mhm.
Are we able to take that to a role playing situation where we actually verbalize the correct or the more appropriate language and the way to manage a situation like that?
We could look into how we can do that more, but so the students receive the second step lessons every week, and there are oftentimes activities within those lessons where students can role play, act things out, watch videos of other students role playing, and then can comment and discuss that. At the start of the year, so with PBIS, with this system of expectations, each school has an acronym that identifies the expectations for the students. And so with that come lessons in each classroom or weekly assemblies where students are able to explore those further and really explore what the expectations look like. We can definitely look into
It's
more
so
role plays.
powerful to actually say the words to another person, to another child perhaps, or to an adult.
Agreed. Cabrillo has a song for their expectations. And so maybe they can lead by example for some of the other schools and activities that can
Thank
do.
I love that we are individually reaching many students. Do we have a clue how many we're actually reaching? And then a second part to this question is, I love PBIS philosophically. The idea is we don't punitively act, we give them positive behavior options. Are we ever recognizing positive behavior before there's a corrective action?
Yes.
You with me on that? So on the positive side as well as getting them to a positive side.
Yes. So data, I'll bring you data next round. But for like something like counseling, at the end of last year, we had almost 200 students that our counselors were serving across our schools. Right now, it's a fraction of that because we're just getting going and getting into the groove of counseling. But in terms of individual students, that's about how many we'd expect to provide services for this year. For the other things, we say that everybody gets a certain level of support, right? So that's school assemblies, those classroom instruction as instructional lessons, second step lessons. And then beyond that, if we see that students are struggling or we want to acknowledge something, then we go into those more targeted approaches and interventions. And
I would add to Monique that we have focused a lot over the years. I know the middle school has a fantastic program they use, Caught Being Good, and they hand out student merits to students as tracked. And then there's like a student merit market, they call it. So you can turn in tickets, if you will, to get, a bag of chips or a crayon or pencil. But I think those are, that's one way. And trying to figure out how to catch kids being good, how to really promote that, both in the classroom and so that's a really good point. And maybe some of that was, it's hard to do that on Zoom, so to speak.
Sure.
I think that maybe some of that we need to sort of look and revisit that with our PBIS teams as to how we're really, because you reinforce positive behavior instead of always.
Right.
So totally agree. And I think I know we've talked about that, we've definitely had those conversations, so look forward to seeing that. I think it's an important component of behavior.
And anything we can do to reach more students with proactive interactions will be supported.
Thanks. Yeah, just to echo that or to piggyback on that, the school sites have like slips. So they're like sore slips at Anza and buddy slips at 138. And so when an adult sees a student meeting those expectations, and the student gets a slip, that usually turns into a prize.
Thank you.
Yeah, Cub cards at Cabrillo. I think they're best slips, right, at 138. Anyways, thank you very much for the presentation, and I am, obviously fully supportive of all of the initiatives that you're working on, and do hope that we can continue to find ways to bring our families together, to both provide them information as well as to give them opportunities to learn from each other, but just to make sure that they have all of the information about all of these programs that exist, as well as how to access them, especially if they have a need within their household or they are recognizing something that isn't being addressed. I know I've had great response and ability to access services for my own children when they've needed it, whether that's, hey, my kiddo needs to talk to the counselor today, or I think we need to add something to his IEP, or whatever that thing is. So appreciative of all the teams and of folks who are working on all of those things across the district. I think all of our families greatly benefit, and I just want to make sure that we're providing all of the access and opportunity to everyone who doesn't have the privilege that I do to be as in the know, or to have just the understanding of the system. So thank you for continuing to try to find ways to do that. I think it's critical for our children and for their families. Yeah, I think that's. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Appreciate it. Moving to open item 3.4, special presentation number 2, which is our school facilities program update, and I believe will be joined online
by April Thompson. So I think we're gonna, okay,
Dr. Silvers.
I will kind of wait for her to maybe slide over into the
And
screen.
this is going to be, April is with King Consulting,
yeah.
a partner that's helped us with matching funds and more for many, many years.
Hi, April. Just want to, say that we've spent some time reviewing some of our eligibility, going back and looking at eligibility from, some of our past, eligibility opportunities or the eligibility we've had in the past. April and Jamie have really worked to consolidate it into a form and presentation so we could look at that. Also, that helps us to prepare for some next steps as we move forward, looking at what eligibility might be out there in the future, so we can maximize our the public's dollars and make sure that we're using our resources to the best possible way. So thank you, April, for being here. I know I had a chance to review a little bit this presentation, so thank you for the time and looking forward to the share out.
Hi, well, good evening, Dr. Silvers and board members. Thank you so much for having me. My name is April Thompson, and I'm with King Consulting. And this evening, we are going to go through a progress update, just as Dr. Silvers mentioned, as what we've done so far and what we have yet to do, our next steps as far as capturing some state funding for your facilities. Will I be sharing my screen, or is that preferable?
Share first, or we? Jay, you're going to do it? April, is it easier for you to just share your screen so you can move at your pace, or would you prefer us to do it?
Yeah, that would be great, because then I can navigate us over to the client dashboard just to give the board kind of an idea on how that would is going to look as it is built out.
Jason, does that work for? Okay.
All right. I will share.
When she says dashboard, I get excited. Right?
Let's hope I can get everything. I can navigate the Zoom and get everything up and going for you. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So, oh, and look at that, I already went too fast. So this evening, these are the items I'm going to be touching on here for our progress update for state funding. I'm going to go through the history of participation. So the applications that Wiseburn Unified and also when it was Wiseburn Elementary, where they've captured funding throughout the years. We're going to talk about the funding eligibility that we've calculated for both modernization and new construction, and then our next steps in the process that we follow to capture that funding and identify projects for future funding applications. And then kind of the next step in the planning process for that. And then I'll give a quick update on where we are at the CalShape funding. So the first thing that we look at when we start calculating your eligibility and going through this process, we look at your history of participation in the SFP or the LPP program. The SFP program is from the year 2000 to today, and the LPP program was the State School Facilities Program prior to the SFP. So these are all the funding applications that have been successful for Wiseburn Unified, and then also when it was Wiseburn Elementary throughout the year. So this is the funding, this is the real funding that the district has been able to capture over the years. The next step is to look at calculating your eligibility. And we will do that in two programs. We do that for the modernization program and also the new construction program. And so a quick recap, I know we talked about this a few months ago, but a quick recap for the modernization program is it's a 60-40 state to local match. So for every dollar, for every one local dollar that the district spends, you'll get 60 cents back from the state. As we calculate your modernization eligibility, it never expires as long as we can update it if your enrollment increases, but we can lock you in at a certain level of eligibility. And then it's our choice if there's a more favorable time to update the eligibility for the modernization program, then we can do it then. So we keep an eye on this. We track it every year to make sure that we have the district locked in at the most optimal time for this modernization eligibility. Funding is based on Pupils House and portable classrooms over 20 years old and permanent classrooms over 25 years. So what that means is the state has decided that if you have a portable building, it becomes of age or eligible for modernization dollars when it's 20 years old. So 20 years from the original date of construction. For a permanent structure, it becomes of age or eligible for modernization dollars at 25 years. So that's how those are the dates that we use to calculate your eligibility for the modernization program. Modernization funding is for existing facilities only. So it's to, replace things that are already in existence or to update or modernize a facility that's already in place. You can also do what's called like for like replacement. So if you're constructing new classrooms, but you are replacing existing classrooms, if you're going to build 2 new classrooms and demolish 2 old classrooms, then we can submit that for the modernization program. It's called a like for like replacement. And when you do that, those classrooms can never be used again for the purposes of K-12. This is also a reimbursable program. So as I go further down into the presentation, I'll explain to you kind of our process and how we do that and how we look back into projects that you've already completed. And if they are eligible for this program, then we can submit right away and then get some more, get that cash flow moving a little bit earlier rather than waiting for planned projects. And of course, that's what I referenced is that we do recommend exploring and applying for those past projects first. It just will accelerate your cash flow. So your current modernization eligibility for each of your sites is based on pupil grants, and there's a certain amount. There's a base grant and then some optional augmentations to those grants. So what we're looking at here is for each of the 4 school sites, the state share is that's your 60 cents back on the dollar that you are eligible for in modernization eligibility. So at 138th Street, there's about $434,000 in eligibility. At Juan Cabrillo, there's about $478,000. At Juan Dianza, there's about $1.1 million. And at Richard Henry Dana Middle, there's about 1.9 million, which is a total of about almost $4 million in modernization eligibility.
Excuse me, April, this is Neil, is that current eligibility or ultimate eligibility? I mean, like literally we qualify for these? Because I'm not understanding based on the 20 and 25 year.
Yep. This is the result of our calculations of going back and pulling out all of those historical documents and finding out the ages of each one of the buildings and the facilities on these campuses. So you're eligible for this money right now.
I don't understand it, but I love it.
And so April, just to clarify too, I mean, this requires the match from the district, and then it also requires
Us being able to enter in a project that is a true modernization project somewhere.
Exactly. Yes, those are 2 qualifications. So you could see if we, submitted for this $443,000 at 138th Street, then there is an expected district match of about $289,000.
So, April, I'm sorry, can I just add, just to clarify one more time? I noticed there's these 4 school sites here. What's not on this list is, for instance, like where does the empty field on 135th and Aviation fall? You know, we have that site there. Where does the SLC Futures program fall? So I'm not seeing that here either. And then also we have a Del Air site and quote unquote preschool.
Which is the oldest of our facilities.
Oh, okay.
So these are the sites where you have current enrollments that we found. And I apologize if there is an error in here, then I'll go back to the team and we'll retool and come back next month for sure. But this is, in order to qualify for eligibility, we need to have current enrollments at the site. So although you may own vacant property or a site that's not being used currently, in order to submit a funding application, you do need to have current enrollments at the site. And these are district properties or, district run schools.
Right.
And that's K through 12 enrollment?
Yes, these are your, this is your elementary and your middle. This does not include the Da Vinci High School.
April, quick question. Looking at Anza Elementary School, if we have to replace the roof there, would we be eligible to tap into those funds?
Absolutely. That is a great project actually to put through roofing, things like roofing, HVAC replacements, fire alarms, projects that traditionally that don't touch the interior of the classroom are much faster getting through the approval process. In order to submit an application to the Office of Public School Construction, you need to have the approvals of other 2 agencies, and that's the California Department of Education. They're going to check the Title V requirements and make sure, everything is safe for your students. And then DSA also, which they're looking at structural and fire fire life safety. So things like roofing, HVAC, fire alarms, those projects do tend to get through that approval process faster and would accelerate the cash flow also.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So let's see, so that's your modernization eligibility. This is money that we can apply for and capture right now. This next part is also modernization eligibility. And as I mentioned earlier, when we talk about the age of your facilities, we look at portable buildings. When they become 20 years old, they are eligible for modernization. When a permanent structure is 25 years old, it becomes eligible for modernization dollars. Well, in the inception of this program in the year 2000, those were the benchmarks that the state put forward. Well, what's happening now is we are in 2022. And schools who, or school districts who took their funding in the early 2000s are saying, hi, our buildings are turning over again. We are at the 2025 year or nearing the 2025 mark again since we last took funding. When you take funding, it resets that date. So when we went over your history of participation, you did have successful funding applications in the past. But as I said, now these buildings that you have previously modernized with state funds are turning over again. So we like to calculate and project out so that the staff, through their planning process, we can construct that implementation plan and look at the your current local dollars, look at the cash flow for what we expect to come in with your funding applications, and then where we expect to have additional eligibility down the line. So you can see that in 2028, 138th Street will have another $2.3 million in eligibility. Juan Cabrillo in 2032 will have another $2.4 million in eligibility. Juan Dianza in 2028, we'll have another 2.4 million in eligibility. And then the middle school in 2031 will have another $4.8 million in eligibility for the modernization program. So by 2028 to 2031, you will have roughly another $12 million in eligibility that you can capture for modernization projects. That makes sense?
Yeah, so just if I may, so if we spend the money to invest in modernizing these facilities in the next year or two, come 2020, 28, 32, et cetera, at the various sites, we've already spent that money, so we can request effectively reimbursement up to that percentage.
I'm not quite sure I understand what you're asking, but what we can do, if we're gonna submit applications to capture all that $4 million that you're eligible for right now, and then we're going to track the projects that you're currently doing and prepare those applications. So when this 138th Street and Dianza are eligible again in 2028, yes, we will go back and capture the projects that you've already done, the projects that you're planning right now. And they may have been, you may complete a roofing project at, Dianza in 2026. And then when it comes eligible again for that 22.4 million, we can put that application in.
That's great. Thank you.
So that is this is our calculation for what's called your return of grants. So the return of the grants that you had previously taken in past funding applications. So that was the modernization program. There's also the new construction program. It's a little bit different. The state provides a 50-50 match instead of the 60-40. It's only 50-50. And the district can use many different types of local funds in order to fund the district share of that. But the stipulation is that this program can only be utilized to construct new classroom or and related ancillary facilities that would include a classroom. So it's only to when you have the enrollment to justify an increase in your capacity. So new construction eligibility is calculated annually, and it's not something that you can lock in unless you're a very small district. So we recalculate this every year. And it's a little bit different because a modernization program, you're locked in at that level and it never expires. New construction, you have to demonstrate that you have the eligibility for new construction at the time we submit the application, but then also at the time it's picked up for review. And depending on the workload at the state, that could be 1 to 3 to 5 years at that time. So the new construction program is a little bit less of a guarantee, whereas the modernization program, it's not an if, it's a when. The modernization program, you are already locked in at that right now at that nearly $4 million. So your new construction eligibility that was calculated, you have about $1 million in new construction eligibility right now if you had a need to to build a new classroom somewhere.
April, hi, this is Joanne. I have a question. We're talking about eligibility.
Mhm.
Are those monies actually funded? Are they truly available from the state or?
Yes, they are truly available. Although there is not the current state school facilities bond is expended. The governor has allocated in this year's budget, as well as committed in the next 2 years of budget cycles, about $8 billion from the general fund directly into the state school facilities program. And that is in anticipation of another state school facilities bond to be put on the ballot likely in 2024. And there are a lot of advocacy groups like the Coalition for Adequate School Housing that is lobbying pretty aggressively in Sacramento for a new school bond to be on the ballot in 2024. So essentially what this $8 billion will do is that the governor has allocated from the general fund or committed in the 3-year budget cycle is it's going to clear the decks of the applications that were, it's about $3 billion that were received beyond bond authority. So they had already, the state has continued to accept applications for this program, despite the fact that there wasn't any funding, knowing that there, or anticipating that there would be a future bond. So essentially, the general fund dollars from the surplus will clear the decks of all those applications, and they're being funded monthly. We're very busy right now. Things are coming in and out. But it will clear the decks of those applications that have been sitting there and then provide enough funding over the next 2 budget cycles to anticipate new funding applications coming in. And then with the expectation that in 2024, we will have a new state school facilities bond to fund this program.
But those monies projected it for the next 3 years, the budget's only approved year by year, right?
Yes.
So those are planned but not approved.
The funding at the state level?
Yes.
Yes, the dollars are committed for the next 2 budget cycles. But this is, the school facilities program is something has been a large part of the governor's platform. And we don't anticipate there not being funding for this program, you know, in the next 3 years before the next election cycle in 2024. Although you are correct that, you know, nothing is ever guaranteed, but I would say that it's extremely unlikely that there would not be funding for these programs, as the governor has stated.
Okay, thanks.
Quick question. New athletic fields, do they meet the new construction eligibility?
Athletic fields, if you're replacing something that's already there, then that would fall under the modernization program.
What about if it's something that, if we demo the facility, we're building new?
Just dirt now.
If there is already a field in use, and you're going to say there's a dirt field and you're going to put in a turf field, then that would qualify for the modernization program.
What about just dirt? There's no field, there's just dirt.
There's nothing there yet.
If there's a play field at a school site that has eligibility and you want to demolish it and put in a turf field or upgrade or modernize that field for your students, then yes, it would qualify for modernization funding.
So April, I think the question is, what defines a field? I mean, I saw students playing on a dirt field. Or on dirt. That should be a field.
If it's a play field, if the school considers it a play field and students are out there and they want to modernize it, then
We have something to pursue with further research, so.
Well,
yeah.
you know, I guess you're answering my question, because actually we get more funds under modernization eligibility, so maybe that's the route we go.
Yes. The new construction wouldn't traditionally apply to a field. Because new construction has to increase your capacity. So it has to include a classroom. So if this was at a school where, say at your middle school where you were gonna put a team room that would function as maybe a PE classroom, adjacent to your field, that, might be eligible, but the $1 million in eligibility you have in the new construction program would probably just fund the classroom and, this building itself and not the field.
Thank you.
So this is the dashboard, the infamous dashboard. And this is where your application information is going to live, as we've already been working with staff to identify projects, look at the local funding, look at, that eligibility, and match up those past projects with your, with your current eligibility. So as we continue to identify those projects, once they materialize into actual funding applications, that information will live here. And we will, as we meet with the district, we will continually update where we are in the process, what the status is of each funding application, the estimated state funding, where it is in the process of the approvals with OPSC, with DSA, also with CDE, and any notable information that we need for the application itself. And once we have your cash flow dates in here estimated from the time that we submit your applications, then it will populate here in this table, and we'll be able to build out that cash flow dependent on the dates of application submittal. This is the modernization eligibility. So if the staff ever wants to go back and review what we discussed today, the eligibility is here, and you can review both your current eligibility and your return of grants that you'll be expecting in the future. And that goes for the new construction eligibility also. And we'll continue to update these when and if there are updates. And we would, let the district know that your eligibility has been updated. It's on your dashboard. You go ahead and check it out. And now in our process of identifying projects for applications, we go into what's called the DSA tracker. And we put that information here. That's the Division of State Architect. Usually if the district has completed projects in the past that went through the process of receiving approvals from the Division of State Architect, it likely meets the qualifications in order to be an eligible project for funding. So we like to go here first. We look at, when the projects were approved, what the costs were, and then we look at the project scope as reported to DSA to see if we think that it's going to be eligible for the modernization program. So this is kind of where we start that strategic planning process. And then this is the same thing that I showed you earlier, where we, if the district wants to go back and look at, each individual application or fund release or transaction from the state, you can go in here and you can see all of the applications that have previously been submitted. So that's just a quick overview of the dashboard.
April, can you go back to that last place?
Yes.
Sorry, thank you. So I noticed there's significant CTE funding that's been, that we've applied for. I know it's been on behalf of the high schools. Has there been any change in the district being able to basically apply for this money for middle school and elementary school programs? Or, I know there's some articulation that can happen between high school or middle school programs and high school programs. So what would the district have to do to actually apply for one of these grants on its own? Maybe it's a further conversation, but I'd just be curious. I know it's been pretty difficult for elementary districts or K-8 programs.
Are you talking specifically about CTE funding?
I am.
Yeah, right now the state only authorizes CTE funding. It's only eligible for high schools. Although groups like the Coalition of Adequate School Housing and other advocacy groups are are lobbying at the state level to say that it would be beneficial to offer those dollars to programs at middle schools for exactly the reason that you said. As those kids matriculate up into high school, it's definitely a benefit to have those facilities available in the middle school at the very least. But unfortunately, right now they're only available to high schools.
So I know I understand that too. I think that I've heard from certain districts, local districts even, that they actually push some of those programs down into the middle schools, that they're using CTE funding, yet supporting high school programs, but also getting pushed down to middle school programs or maybe beyond that. Are you saying that maybe that's a different funding model or?
I would think that would be a different funding model, but I can definitely take note of that and talk to my team. We can do some research and see if there are some additional opportunities out there for middle schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I will definitely look into that. That's interesting. That's exciting. We're always looking for more money. So.
And April, this is Neil again. One last comment. So many months ago, you came back. I think you and Jamie were here, and thank you, to share the idea of the dashboard and to update us on what you're going to be working on. So this conceptually is fantastic, very excited. And one of the reasons I'd asked you about the dashboard initially is that we have so many things coming before us, and it takes many months between when we apply and if and not we get any funds, we just forget about it. So I would have thought that I believe there are some things you are pursuing for us currently that I would have expected we might be able to see on the dashboard. And if I'm mistaken, feel free to correct me. That's the reason for the dashboard in the first place.
Yes, right now we've just been pursuing the CalShape funding, and I apologize, I don't have a tab on here, but I can certainly add a CalShape tab on here so that you can follow those dollars and the process of that program. But
Anytime you pursue anything, put it in this dashboard so that we're in the know that this is out there and you're working on it. That would be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. I apologize that I didn't have that prepared for you tonight, but I will have that done within the next week and send an update over to Dr. Silver so he could check that out.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Of course. So let's see, back to our presentation. So as we work through, we go back and we look at your past projects, identify what projects would be eligible for the modernization program. That's when we go back through that DSA tracker and look at those projects and those dollars and those scopes. There may not be enough projects at the certain at a certain site to maximize the eligibility. So as I said, going back and looking at your past projects, it definitely it will accelerate that cash flow because those are projects that have already been approved and gone through that process of design and everything. But if we still are not able to maximize those modernization dollars, then we want to look forward at the projects that you're planning. And that also would go for new construction. The caveat to new construction is also you need to submit your application prior to occupying the building. So new construction is only for planned projects. So the next step for most districts, especially many districts right now, coming off the recent election, is to build what we call a pool of architectural firms. And what we normally do in this process is we would support staff through that process of establishing the pool of architects. We would support the request for qualifications. The school facilities program actually dictates the procurement requirements as a condition of funding. So we definitely want to make sure that before you start working with an architect or before any district starts working with an architect, they've gone through and documented their procurement process, because that is something that can derail a funding application or cause it to be ineligible down the line once you're going through audit. So we want to make sure that all of these things are done up front. So we would support the district in recruiting that pool of architectural firms. And the objective is really to have a small group of maybe 3 at the very most 5 architectural firms who you've already conducted that one procurement process over, a couple of months, identified a mixture of a small firm, medium firm, and maybe a large firm in order to tackle the projects that you would have of corresponding size and scope. So, you may have a roofing project and you just need, you know, a small architectural firm to do those drawings and walk them through DSA or obtain the DSA exemptions for those so that we can put them in for funding down the line. So, and once you have established your pool of architects, you're not actually in contract with any of the architects. You've just established that you've completed that procurement process. And then what the district would do next is, as you identify the projects that you want to put in design, you can, you would put out to one or two or all of the architectural firms in your pool. You would put out an RFP. You would say, this is the project that we, you know, are looking at. Please give us a quote. And then you would decide whether or not you want to go into contract with, you know, a particular architectural firm that you've identified in your pool for one or multiple projects. Are there any questions?
Makes sense.
Was that it? Did you have any questions on that one?
No question.
No, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So that is the update on where we are right now with the SFP program. That's where we are now. Where the point to where we've gotten in calculating all of your eligibility. And now, as Dr. Silvers mentioned, we've been working with staff to identify those past projects and then look forward at the projects that you're planning. And then we do have a CalShape update. You know that the first school site that was eligible in your district was Juan De Anza Elementary. Way back, it feels like forever ago, the first time that I presented to you. But in the last round of CalShape that closed on October 31st, in this most recent round, all of the school sites in California became eligible. So we were able to submit for funding for the additional school sites. So this is the amount that we've requested. They're still processing those applications. So for 138th Street, we requested about $123,000 in funding, and this is for ventilation assessment and maintenance. Juan Cabrillo, we've requested $125,000 in funding, and then Richard Henry Dana Middle, we requested $167,000 in funding. And similar to the Juan De Anza grant, this funding will include the assessment of all the ventilation, all the mechanical units at each one of these sites, installation of new controls that would include the required CO2 monitors. It would also include any repairs or maintenance that is found to be needed from that assessment. And then it also would fund one round of filter replacements at ideally a MERV 13 or the rating that's feasible for each one of the individual mechanical units.
So April, I know I've asked you this question before, so forgive me for that, but I just want to clarify. So I know this doesn't replace HVAC units, but at the end of these assessments, we would have, for instance, a list. If we have 40 units on a school site, we would have a list of which ones can be repaired with which, you know, accessories or resources. And then we would have those that maybe are almost beyond repair. And then we could plan for the future how we would budget for replacement for those. It doesn't pay for it, but we would at least know. Is that correct?
Exactly. There will be an opportunity to apply for replacement dollars. I've been working really closely with the CEC as they build out that next component of the program. They're sort of building this program out as they go. But they're working on that funding model we hope that that the replacement funding round will open in the summer of 2023. So ideally, we'd like to get these ventilation assessments, you know, done in the next, you know, 4 to 6 months, and then you'll have those detailed reports to submit to the CEC. I'm sorry, which is the California Energy Commission. So you'll have these detailed reports with all of the, you know, the current status of all of your mechanical units and the recommendations for replacement, maintenance, and repairs. And then we would use that as justification to request additional dollars for replacements of those units that have been identified as needing it.
And April, quick question, a little bit, I guess, separate question from this, but what about lighting? Have we looked at lighting across the district?
You can look at lighting. That's a great project that's eligible for modernization funding. It's not an eligible expense for CalShape. That's just for ventilation. But lighting, if you're doing lighting replacements, then that's definitely eligible for modernization dollars.
Yeah, and it wasn't CalSheet that I was looking at, I was looking at falls in the category, I was just looking at SCE and just wondering if we might be eligible there.
Yes, so the CalShape program is funded by California's investor-owned utilities. So because you are SCE customers, that's where your funding comes from. It comes from the Southern California Electric. It's going to come from their energy efficiency budget. So where I am up in Northern California, the districts in this area are funded through PG&E's energy efficiency budgets.
Okay.
So I believe that will conclude my presentation. Were there any additional questions?
April, I know and for those watching, we've taken quite a bit of time here, but this is such a vital part of running the district. Partnership is evidently our theme this evening, and you guys have been tremendously valuable partners, getting us hundreds of thousands, I dare say millions or more over the years. And we appreciate your efforts updating that dashboard, making the happiest guy on the planet. So thank you so very much. Really appreciate your good work in the presentation tonight.
Of course, and we're happy to come back anytime. I will update that dashboard and let Dr. Silvers know he can share with you. And I just have to say that we really enjoy working with your staff. They're such great stewards of your community's dollars, and they're great partners for us to have, and we really enjoy working with you.
Nice to hear. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie, as well, please.
I absolutely will. She's on another board meeting right now.
Have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you guys for bearing with us, but important stuff. Speaking of important stuff, we're going to go to our action item number 4 in personnel. And Dr. Silvers, I'm going to turn it over to you. This is an exciting potential opportunity here.
Yeah, I think I made a mistake by not placing this higher on the agenda, so.
Yeah, Amir, you're a good soul. Thank you for bearing with us.
I'm sorry about that, Amir. I'm thankful, Amir. It's really good to see you here. Thank you for the process. I want to, welcome you to the district. But I think Dr. Hasty was gonna kind of share an intro, so I'll turn to him, but I did want to say hi.
I have a microphone here, or should I go to the podium?
Right there.
As long as you can hear me, okay. It is with great pleasure that this evening we present to you as a recommendation to the board for the hire of Mr. Amir Kolmars for the position of Director of Technology. Mr. Kolmars comes to our board meeting tonight with a plethora of experience in software, hardware, and network engineering. He has had experience with both PowerSchool and Aries and budgeting, having conducted cost analysis projections and working with E-Rate. But most importantly, he has experience in leadership, something we highly value here at Weisburn, having managed teams and project planning. He has a master's in electronics and computer systems engineering and a bachelor's in software engineering, having graduated with honors. He has worked with and led within a number of school districts, including Martinez Unified, Novada Unified, and Modesto City Schools, just to name a few. Most importantly, he was a programming instructor for Yosemite Community College. It is my great pleasure and honor to recommend Mr. Amir Kolmars to the board as a hire for the Director of Technology for the Weisburn Unified School District. Mr. Kolmars.
Well, it's great to have you here. You know what we probably should do is we're going to give you a chance to say a word or two if we pass, but why don't we have a motion for this item?
You have a motion?
Well, thank you very much. And a second, thank you very much. So all in favor of approving our recommended Director for Technology Operations, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Unanimously. Amir, if you want to say a word, you're welcome to, and introduce your sister, please.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, board, principal. superintendent and leadership team. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous now, trying to cool down a little bit. It's honor and pleasure to be here, standing before you guys and accept the position. Thank you very much. I heard nothing except positive things about this district before I applied for a job, and it was a very difficult decisions. Last week, Nisha knows what is the story behind it. I had a couple of job offers came at the same time, but I received nothing except take this position.
Congratulations on making the right choice.
Definitely it is. My previous superintendent actually talked to Nisha, and Nisha went really fast. I mean, I was stunned with how fast this district moving. I thought I'm the fastest person on the planet, but actually I take it back. This district was really fast, and I'm honored to be here. And I have, as Jason mentioned already, I bring all my experiences working with a K-12 environment to this district, trying to take it to the next level. And of course, under great leadership is here. I need help. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. And your sister, please.
Of course, I love introduce my sister, Ferry. She was another point of encouragement actually to drag me here because I was in Northern California. She encouraged me to come back here to Southern California. I stayed with her, and it was a big push from her too.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, congratulations and welcome to Wiseburg Unified School District and to Southern California.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We are very grateful to have you here. Your background, I'm sure
Thank you.
Joanne is thrilled to hear her with his background. If you want to mention anything.
Yeah, your education was in New Zealand?
Yes, it was.
Wow.
I'm Persian by born, but I moved to New Zealand somewhere around 25 years ago.
Mhm.
And I started after getting, of course, my residency established there and start joining university. I started computer science, actually. I have great leadership. As I said, I'm here because of the great people in my life. And one of my leaders told me, you have a good math background. Start doing engineering. And that's why I end up going to software engineering and eventually do electronics engineering. And
Well, again, we're grateful to have you here and welcome aboard.
thank you very
Thank
much. Thank you very much.
You have been so lovely to sit through the meeting and wait this long. You are free to depart. We'll find out another day. But thank you very much.
Tomorrow.
All right, moving to 5.1 district partnership. I don't know if any of my colleagues on the board wish to share on the DB Wiseburn District Partnership, any updates that you'd like to make from current meetings?
My only update is that we were on the brink of meeting this past Tuesday morning, and Brian Mead had to cancel. He had a meeting come up. So we had a great prep meeting with Monique and Blake and Jason, and had some documentation that had been requested that we prepared. And we're gonna meet again as soon as we can schedule a time. But we're close. We're, like I say, we're the eve of the meeting, and we had to, Brian had to pull out. So anyway, so we're continuing to meet as available. Of course, everybody, like you said, is volunteers. Everybody has a full-time job, so we do the best we can, and look forward to meeting together again soon.
Thank you.
No update from us, but we are overdue for a meeting, Rebecca, with Ray and Roll. So we'll plan that here hopefully in the next month or two.
And Roger would be with us this evening, but he had a personal matter that he had to attend to, and alas, we will not be able to meet tomorrow. So we're going to be rescheduling. So we're doing our best, guys, and we're certainly committed to making this happen. So we're trying to reschedule early December to make that happen. So more to come there. Let's move now to area 6, item 6, information from the board. Our Vice President, Mr. Martinez.
In the spirit of time, I know Blake, there's some events that I've attended with Blake that he's going to talk to, so I'll keep it short tonight. I just want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving break as we approach, and just grateful to be here with my colleagues, and obviously grateful to the entire Wiseburg family, and just wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving. That's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Canetta.
Just want to say thank you to all the folks that supported the Proposition EE for Wiseburn. It looks like we're right over the top of being able to have that bond approved. There's still election results coming in. Thank you very much to Rebecca, especially as our board member here, who took the lead to lead that committee, both for the volunteers and for the community. Thank you for that. Thank you to Blake for volunteering his time as well, because that's what it is, volunteer time, to walk and talk and explain the the funding needs. Thank you to the community for voting. Appreciate that there's a vote of confidence that is, that's there for us, but also some skepticism. So we need to make sure to earn your trust and make sure we understand each other and how the money will be spent, assuming the election comes out positive as it is right now. So I want to thank the community for that. Know that your money will be in good hands as the district proceeds. And as Nelson said, happy holidays. How can this be happening? But it is November and it is almost Thanksgiving. So best to all. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Rebecca?
Thank you. So thank you, Joanne, for those kind words about Measure EE. As we know, the voting for the November election concluded November 8th, but votes are still being counted in Los Angeles County. As of this evening, passage of Measure EE is leading with nearly 56% of the vote share. So I just want to thank my co-chairs on the bond committee, Michelle Legaspi and Eddie Urenda, as well as Dr. Silver for volunteering countless hours, both talking to our neighbors at doors, on the phone, by text, in all the ways that we could reach people, and for having all of those conversations, which I thought were vital, both for the district to just share the information with the community about what our plans were and to dispel myths about how funds had previously been spent, and what our plans were for the future, and encourage us to continue to be as transparent and open as possible as we move forward, should Measure EE in fact pass, and we have those funds to steward into the future. Look forward to maintaining those communications, and thank you to all of the members of the staff and administration, parents, teachers, board members, members of the PTAs, members of the Weisburn Little League, and all of the other organizations that came out and helped us to talk to their friends and families as well about this incredibly important thing that we're doing. I also just wanted to shift gears for a second and just say that, as many of us are preparing to celebrate the Thanksgiving season, I think it's also important to remember that November is Native American Heritage Month. And Thanksgiving, like Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day, serves as an important reminder of the genocide and violence Native communities experienced and continue to experience. And I think it's important that we incorporate Native American heritage into all the lessons that our children are learning, whether that means, providing inclusive projects, activities, lessons, educational materials to them so that students of all ages can investigate the myths of Thanksgiving at Plymouth and discuss what we actually know from the perspective of the colonists and the Wapahoe. That we emphasize that Native people are still here and not just part of our history. When we discuss the life ways of Native people in the past, we also talk about the ways the colonists lived and how people were different from today. And that we explain to students that Native groups are all different, and we can research where we live, right? Weisburn is located on the unceded land of the Tongva or Gabrielino people, and I invite folks to visit the Native Lands app, native.land.ca, to explore more information about the Native peoples that inhabit these lands, and to know what territory we live on today, and to shift our focus to celebrations of really gratitude and harvest. It's really important to me that my children learn to respect all cultures and their histories. And then lastly, I've also had the opportunity recently to visit classrooms at Cabrillo and 138th Street schools to provide lessons related to the US Constitution. As a lawyer, I have a deep appreciation for and knowledge of the Constitution. And I, in fact, have taken an oath several times to uphold and defend the Constitution, as we all have up here. And so I'm grateful to the teachers who welcomed me into their classrooms to help share these important concepts, things like the rule of law and reminders about the basic underpinnings of our Constitution, which especially at election time, is important for us to remember. And thank you to Lisa Wilberg, who's helped me put together some lesson plans for the second graders. I'm going to be going into all of the second grade classrooms at Cabrillo the week after Thanksgiving to do more of those lessons. Really looking forward to that and grateful for the opportunity. So thank you to all of the folks who've done that.
I can always count on learning something from you, Rebecca. Thank you. This is a poignant meeting for me in that it is the second to last meeting I will serve as president on this board. So I'm gonna milk it for the next 4 hours. No, hardly. I'll have more to say on that next time, but I did want to say something that has, we have a tradition that you alluded to earlier that I think is really wonderful of passing the gavel, if you will, at our board. And I do raise a question, this is not for me, it's time. But I do raise the question, why do we pass the gavel in December and not in June? At the beginning, or July, at the beginning of the school year? And I would encourage us to explore that and maybe look at that, because we run fiscal year, we run all our LCAP, everything we do is on the July, June year. It seems to me that might make sense for the president as well. Not in the next month, but just for food for thought, so moving that. We will have on our agenda again to the board, a quick review of the positions that are being held to get your minds thinking about nominations and positions next month. Also, in my capacity as president on this board, I serve as the vice chair of the Local Public Schools Funding Authority, LPFSA, which is our partnership with Centinela Valley. And there was actually a very important meeting that occurred that I attended and Nelson attended as well, relative to the choice blocks. Those families that used to be in the Lawndale School District and ultimately now have joined our school district. And we've always had conversations of it relative to the relationship with Lawndale, and great district we have great respect for. What we had, and all our districts locally, what we had not talked about much was the fact that this actually also impacts Centinela Valley, because they're not only leaving the elementary district, they're leaving the high school district to come to us. So what we did at this particular meeting was agree to the map of who would be included in the choice blocks relative to the changing of which schools they now send their taxes to and are part of in terms of their community. So after a very confusing map that we will not subject you to and significant conversation, we did agree on that map. It is subject to further review, but it basically shares all the residents, the businesses in the district don't move. It was just a residential move, but very interesting and important for our district moving forward. Another meeting I attended was Local Control Funding Authority meeting, which is our partnership with the Lennox, Lawndale, us, Hawthorne, and CV. And that was an initiative that I had asked to not waste money on an expensive bank account with a bank to move to a free account. So we needed a meeting for that. Thank you very much, Neil. And we voted and approved on that. We also approved the audit that the funds are appropriately cared for. So saving us all a little bit of money just with fiduciary responsibility. One other issue that came up in talking to our community, and I'll get to the bond in just a sec, was the idea of a pickleball court on the and Dr. Silvers and I have talked about this on the Del Air tennis courts. And I thought that was a great idea for the community, except the question arose is that who has authority to do that? Is that the county? Is that us? And I said, great question. I know Dr. Silvers, you reached out. I don't know if we heard back from the county. You can address that as you wish.
Yeah, I actually think I made a mistake. I was thinking it was, I totally thought it was Holly Glen that we were, but I realized that, so I was gonna come back and say, well, there are painted lines for.
Right. Yeah, because they saw it in Holly Glen, the Del Air community said, what a great idea. Let's bring it.
So what I do know is that we don't have access to those tennis courts until 2026.
Okay.
That's when our, or if we renegotiate earlier. So I mean, assuming the county would want to do that. So, I think as we move into the new year, to January, it may be worth us having some committee meetings, whether through facilities, or even, board workshop on some pathways forward that we may have with the county, and certainly would include this. This is a big deal,
It is.
Pickleball has really grown. It's all over the sports world.
And so not only that deal, but that also takes my next section, which was the whole issue of 2025-26. I wasn't sure the date, where the multi-decade lease to the county expires, and now we have choices because we own this land.
Right.
So to your point, whether it's facilities committee or board conversation workshop, I'd like to start us thinking about that, because this will come up on us. Yes, it's 4 years from now, but that's we'd like to have an answer that we're looking for long before. So we'll talk further on that. Back to the bond again, Rebecca. Thank you to Michelle. Thank you to Eddie for their countless hours and volunteer time. Blake, your volunteer time put us over the top. And I want people to know that Blake did this as a second job or second effort outside of his own Wiseburn hours. So lots of late nights, lots of time. I also want to comment and thank the cabinet. You all were so involved on your individual time. I know Eileen, you were out canvassing. I bet you may have all been, I'm not sure. I know Wendy and I ran into each other. So no one was hurt, but when we were campaigning, canvassing for the district. So thank you for your efforts and the volunteering you did. This is all in the interest of doing right by our students, and to the King Consulting presentation, managing the funds. And to that point, I would like to make a comment. Learned a lot in talking to our community. Learned a lot about some mundane things that are important. For example, concerns over cork over rubber and turf and the temperature therein, and the desire to use real fields in baseball instead of turf fields because of the experience. Great. Learned about entrenched perceptions on communications in the past and the essential need for us to offer more clarity on our usage of funds, and particularly on facilities. We were having some sidebars talking about that. Talked to Dr. Silver about potentially adding a facilities section to our district communication, so we're more communicative on what's happening. When we're reimbursed for hundreds or tens of, or thousands of dollars, we should share that news. That's our fiduciary responsibility, and we're doing right by our community. Also talked to Dr. Silvers about should the bond pass, which again is looking very favorable, however, not decided, but should it pass, when do we fund the bond and at what extent? Because interest rates aren't ideal right now. So we want to get the most for our money to not have any impact on our community's budget. With that said, there's one last thing, and Jason, I'm looking at you here, of course, Dr. Silvers, in that there is a human nature characteristic that we are more careless, not that we're ever careless, wrong term. We are less scrutinous when resources are abundant and become very scrutinizing when they are scarce. I believe it is our responsibility, and I heard this indeed from the comments from our community, that we need to have a scarcity mentality from day one. And also, we also heard from, I also heard the community, and I'm sure my colleagues would echo this, that we don't want another bond anytime soon. And there's miscommunication, misunderstanding. For example, there was expectations by some I heard that why didn't we have a 35-year warranty on the roofs of some of our facilities? Those not being possible, but that was some of the expectations. Also comments on, primarily because of DSA buildings and the cost therein and prevailing wage, how expensive things are. So the point I'm getting to is, with this scare, I would like us to the greatest extent possible, whenever we are spending money, of course, be aware of the opportunity cost of that money, but build in a replacement fund down the road. So for example, if we are going to be repairing a roof, and we know that roof is a 20-year lifespan, I'd like to allocate funds either on an annualized basis or dedicated bond funds that we stipulate with actual usage for the replacement of that roof 20 years from now. So we're not surprised 20 years from now when we have to pay for this and have no funds to do it. I'm going to be really difficult as an advocate for our community's money to make sure we're doing that to the best of our ability. This is no surprise. We've talked about this, but does that make sense as a challenge to us? So we ensure that we get, and if that means we do fewer things so we can maintain things indefinitely or as long as we can, then maybe we do that. Because I don't want, it's the last thing we need to do is create beauty today that we can't afford tomorrow. That's what I wanted to say. So holiday wishes to everybody. Thank you all. Great to be here. You get to deal with me one more meeting. So thank you guys very much. Let's now move to the cabinet. Ms. Mazzarella, the Director of Psychological Services. Always lovely to hear from you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I will be quick. I just wanted to, I know you've read the agenda, but just call out the fact that there are two items tonight. 8.1 is the first reading of a board policy updating the language in our medication administration in the schools to include that having the naloxone available for administration on our campus. So that's got some additional language in there. And then 8.2 is a resolution for your consideration to adopt on opioid awareness and prevention. Okay, thank you. Have a very happy holiday.
Thank you very much. All right, moving to our Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services and CBO, that's a mouthful. Dr. Hasty, take it away, sir.
Not much to report on. I know I'm gonna have Mr. Nava give his update on facilities as well. But just really, we're preparing for the first interim. It's a big time for budget in general. For me personally, I've been making my rounds around the school sites. I've been able to visit the school sites. Just finished meeting with all the principals individually, reviewing budgets. Also, just as you know, Amir is going to start tomorrow. So technology is a priority right now as to what we're going to be doing and trying to get things moving in the right direction there. I do have to say, I did get to go on a maintenance walk with Mr. Nava, and he had me go on top of the roof to check the HVAC. And I was, it was Anza, yes. And so we went and looked at it. It was just interesting, but I got to learn a lot on that maintenance walk with Mr. Nava, and I'm going to turn it over now to him for his update.
Thank you.
Dr. Goldman, board, Dr. Silvers, cabinet, good evening. So our update for this evening's board meeting will be, again, our planners. We're gonna go ahead and look to put some turf inside of those planners at Dana and at Anza. With the existing floor cover plants, we will be removing those and putting them in the planters at Cabrillo. So the plants that we initially paid for and the ones that survived will still keep ticking for us. So with the turf, it'll give a more conducive learning environment for our students and provide a more manicured appearance for our sites. Another item that I would like to bring to light would be the blacktop at 138. We'll be proceeding with a slurry coat and restripe of the existing play games. And down the line, hope to include a Versacourt system that was right there for our, and I believe it can be pickleball, volleyball, a reduced volleyball and reduced tennis, and a basketball court for our staff, and I'm sorry, our students.
Sean, I have a
Yes.
quick question. I asked, I think maybe Dr. Higgs yesterday. So it looks like it's a softer material. It
Yes.
looks like it's less abrasive.
Yes.
So you may scrape yourself, but it's not as bad. Is that-
Correct,
is it-
correct.
it's
So
pretty hard.
versus ask, yeah, it's a hard rubber. So it has a little more give for the kids if they did trip and fall. You may get a little skid, but then again, on a hot summer day, I'd rather have that on my elbow than the asphalt. So that'll save some bumps and bruises, especially head trauma, because it is a rubber, so it'll have a little more give than the asphalt.
One quick question. Do you have an idea kind of dimension wise what?
So that's about 4,500 square feet. Essentially that can be, so the basketball court there, I would say, is about 30 feet wide with the additional volleyball beside it, another 25 feet. So about 60 feet wide, and I can't give you the exact number off the
Close to
length.
the volleyball, that close to the basketball, or is this just?
Yeah, they're about I would say 3 feet. The game lines are about 3 feet from each other. And then we can purchase the wraps for the poles around them.
Yeah,
And that's something that we definitely will be doing when we implement that just for the basketball courts and the volleyball.
If that's a requirement by ASCIP, that's gonna be an ASCIP
Mhm.
requirement. to have padding up there.
Yeah.
What is the lifespan of that?
It's a lifetime warranty. However, I believe their website said if it's like an act of God or something like that, they won't cover it. So if Weisburn gets a hurricane run through it and everything runs to shambles, then we have to pay out of pocket. But it's a lifetime warranty. And I forget the breakdown of cost that they would cover in case if anything did get damaged. But if it's like color fading and things like that, it's free replacement.
Yeah, whose lifetime?
I mean, that's gotta have some.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'd have to really. So just a quick breakdown of costs. Of course, our last board meeting, we approved the repair of the Dana baseball and softball fields. That would be $10,659,000 from our routine repair maintenance. The repair and replacement of a mini split in 138's server room will cost $4,860, again, out of the routine repair.
So what's the mini split?
So it's just a smaller unit, like a half ton, that can, a cool little closet or something to keep the servers cool and not over.
So it's not a part of an HVAC unit, it's a full HVAC unit that's called a mini split that's smaller than a larger unit.
Correct.
Dedicated to the technology.
Yeah. Mhm. Anza backpack brackets will cost $9,758 out of routine repair. I believe there are only 2 classrooms at Anza that had these existing brackets. We will be purchasing them for the rest, I believe 21 to 23 classrooms around the site.
And just a update on that, we actually were, this was part of a plan about 3 years ago. I think right before COVID, we were able to get a couple of the rails in, and then the world stopped. So we're just getting back to that. It's a safety issue. There's bags, we've had students trip, we've had things like that. We just wanted to get items off the ground and just make the space more efficient.
Will they be outside the classroom like at 138th Street? Is that what they're? Okay.
The question that always arises, this is probably for Dr. Silvers more, but either, is what remains in these funds, right, in terms of.
We have a slide coming up.
Oh, perfect.
So the Anza planner project will cost us about $39,750 out of deferred maintenance. Convert Cabrillo and Anza paper dispensers to jumbo roll. Eventually that'll save us money over time and less paper waste, just switching over to those jumbo rolls. That'll cost us about $10,727 out of routine repair. Dana planters will be just over 58,000 out of deferred. Discourse district-wide tree trimming out of routine repair. Routine, yeah. 26,000. And then the slurry code for 138th will be $12,312 routine repair. And the VersaCourt system that we would look to get would cost us about $26,000.
2 questions, Jonathan, on this. The tree planters, where we're planning to utilize turf, are we removing irrigation from those areas?
We are capping irrigation in those areas, and we are putting about cap a DG and then turfing over it. But we are leaving at least one existing line open to run a drip line to the trees.
And then with regards to slurry seal, that's been an item ever since I came on the board, that to make sure that we're on a plan at every school site, because ultimately that is protecting our asphalt. So I like to know kind of like where we're at with all the school sites. And
Multi-year plan.
yeah. We should be doing that at least every 5 years.
Yeah.
So it just protects the asphalt, and it's actually a great project from the community standpoint when you see it, the slurry seal and this restriping and all that. So.
Right.
Okay.
And just to clarify, at 138th, so you're gonna slurry seal the whole thing, even around the handball court, the
Yes.
walls, right?
Yes.
And then the VersaCourt will just go.
We'll
where
just go over the slurry seal.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it.
Yeah, but there's not going to be a place left out on that blacktop that won't get slurried.
Just I was
Yeah.
just was trying to understand if the VersaCourt was gonna replace any of those handball things, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not. It's gonna go where the basketball and
Yes.
volleyball courts are right
Yes.
now. Okay.
And the first item is highlighted in green because it's done.
Yeah, that's it was approved last board, not done, but it was approved last board
Ah,
meeting,
okay.
and it's scheduled to be done over a winter break.
Okay.
You know what I noticed on here though, I'm just curious, is the Dana backboards.
So the Dana backboards, they were supposed to be done a couple weeks ago, but the contractor had a family matter that he couldn't put it up for us. So now it's scheduled for this upcoming break. It's he's ready to go.
What are
They're
you
gonna-
doing?
No,
The polycarbonate backboards.
Dana basketball court backwards.
Oh, thank you.
Remember,
Thank you.
so
Yeah, I was thinking those things, you're scaring us. We already invested in those.
Yeah, so those will be put up this break.
Yeah, we approved that last
Yeah.
week.
Couple
Right longer, right?
couple
Several
ago.
meetings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Life chain issues, huh?
I guess. That's exciting.
Hey, jump in here. Just based on some of the feedback from the last board meeting and also for all of our learning, just to remind everyone just the difference between deferred maintenance and routine restricted maintenance. Just giving you some ideas of on the left or deferred maintenance. You know, again, if the plumbing were to burst and we had watering, we had to take care of something, hazard abatement, anything that could cause injury that we weren't really truly planning on a regular basis, where we go over to routine restricted maintenance. That's also a statutory requirement with 3% of the general fund we have to set aside. So just again, I want to kind of start articulating this more clearly to remind the board, and also that will inform our plan as we build upon that as well. Let me go to the next slide. And then this gives you an idea of the balance. Now, remember, these are projected. I always say that deferred maintenance is less money. Our total budget for the year was 202,000. The current balance as it was, I want to say I pulled that about yesterday, we were at 141. These projected expenditures you saw on there were at 98. I included that VersaCode report as well. That's more maybe down the line, but again, if we were to put everything in place on the deferred maintenance that you saw on that list, we would be down to about 16,000 in deferred maintenance. On the other side of that, though, routine restricted maintenance budget for the year, and I took out the salary and benefits just so, but you can see what we're doing for these expenditures. 1.1, and then of course the current balance, and we did have a little carryover from the previous year. So that's 949. And then right now with these projected expenditures, we would have about 874 remaining balance.
Are any of the items that we have that are coming out of deferred maintenance, is it possible to pay for them out of routine restricted maintenance?
It is, yes, I believe so. I mean, I think the VersaCore is something we could look at moving over because it wasn't something that we were, you know, again, it's something over time that we want to make better. And, you know, and again, we haven't really always defined these in the past. So this is a time where we set some precedent. We can do that moving forward.
I'm also wondering about the planters.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is I know we started conversations about planners probably being in a routine restricted maintenance from RRM, because you know, it isn't so much deferred maintenance as it is looking to maintain, you know, what already exists and sort of upgrade it, basically is what we're doing, so that it maintains better over time. You know, we have, again, I think it's about redefining these categories. I know Jason's provided some insight, you know, to us on how we would do that. And then we'll move forward. So I'll share another point at one point in the agenda. This is how I want to proceed with these items that are presented. And then we'll bring it back to the board. But another point of clarity too is that when you look at where it says without salaries and benefits, just to clarify that as well, part of RRM is that we also include some custodial services, maintenance services, and salaries as part of that, because that's part of the routine. So we'll start breaking that out for you as well.
And can you just, because I'm new, can you remind me how we figure out what funds make up the deferred maintenance thing? Is that just something that we decide as the board, or are there certain funds that, you know, you were talking about like the 3% for the routine
You have to say,
restricted,
yeah.
but for the deferred maintenance, how does that?
I'll find out more as far exactly how we do that, but yeah, I don't have the specifics on that right now.
It just seems like a very low
Yeah, is that
number there.
It's actually a really good question. Is that by board policy, or is that by state mandate? Is that legal recommendation? What's the source?
So you have to have a deferred maintenance account. We have a fund for deferred maintenance that you have to keep. I think what we need to better do is we've started exploring this more. We need to better define what the board parameters are going to be on that. So we want to bring to the board, I think in January, we had talked about potentially bringing to the board, whether it be a resolution or we'll discuss that first, so that we can then have the conversation about what a minimum balance may be, you know, what a budget per year may be, so that we can take the minimum balance, keep it there, but then also target, you know, do we want to spend 200 a year, 300 a year, whatever that number is.
Well, and to that point, I'd love to see us, and this is the challenge of my comments. What has been our historical need? What projections would we expect moving forward? How do we budget for that accordingly?
Yeah, yes.
So there's no requirement for that from the state?
I may be dreaming here, but
There's no like contribution to that account that's defined by the state per year?
I'll find out, and I can definitely be
I think just part of my question also comes from what we heard from the public around the bond. That there were a lot of questions about, could some of these, projects have been, if we had budgeted better, would there have been more money in those funds? And so just would like to get some more clarity around that and be able to share that with the public too.
So what I could speak about in the deferred maintenance is when there was a downturn in the economy for school districts, deferred maintenance was completely cut, almost statewide. And so deferred maintenance, I believe, and obviously Dr. Hasty will find out in terms of the state, has a lot of flexibility. And I think the board can certainly decide on what that minimum is. But that's an area I think there's definitely flexibility. It's not like the routine restricted maintenance.
Factors, not. Okay, so. I think that's it.
Yep, that was our last slide.
The one thing we're also gonna bring back to the board as it relates, as we start defining all of these, and we want to bring a definition and balance on lottery funds. We want to bring definition and balance on developer fees, so we could see that over time. I think there was some misinformation out there, regarding developer fees, and the fact that I think that somebody said that there was 3.5 million at one time. We look back at least maybe 10 years. I think we even look back the last 5 years more critically. And I mean, I don't think the balance went over 300,000. I mean, we're just not getting that kind of money. So maybe back 10, 15 years, 20 years ago, potentially, but it's just not we have not found that it was anything higher than a few $100,000. Right. So we'll bring that all back forward.
And I think you said something, the lottery fees tend to make up like 1 to 2% of our budget annually, something like that, some small percentage. So
And it's really targeted and earmarked towards textbook and instructional materials. So we like to keep that aside because, Eileen has robust plans, with the services team as to what we're going to roll out for break, and what people are. No, we do. We have very, very. You don't mean the money. No, but we do. And instructional supplies are $500,000 for an adoption. It's just really important.
I just think it's important for folks to realize that the lottery monies are not some huge portion of our budget, or that they make up, it's 1 to 2% if we're lucky.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Jonathan, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And what I did want to share is, as we were having conversations with the community, one sentiment is the districts are maintaining. It's phenomenal, beautiful. So that's a credit to you, your leadership, and your staff. So please pass that along.
Staff are out there, so they're the ones wearing it. They're awesome.
Yeah, doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Hasty, anything else?
That's all. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. We'll move now to our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and through Amir's help, we now know it should be called Dr. Speedy.
Quick updates as we head into Thanksgiving break. For the parents and community members listening, students should have come home with COVID tests yesterday or today. We are expecting our families to test either on the Sunday evening or the Monday morning that we return from Thanksgiving break. And this is really an expectation to ensure that we are mitigating any sort of transmission on our campuses. There are a lot of things going on between the flu or influenza, RSV, colds and coughs, along with COVID. So as much as we can protect our students when they come back and return from break, that would be great. So we do expect students to test. If you do test positive, please do let the site office managers know, and so that we can then make the necessary precautions. So that's part one. Part two, we were invited to a job fair yesterday, the fall job fair at El Camino College, hosted by Holly Mitchell's office. We had a great turnout. We were actually taking applications on site. And so now we're in the process of testing those applicants as well as setting up interviews. And so it was a very fruitful event for us in terms of finding instructional aides, playground aides, and substitute food service workers and substitute instructional aides. And so we hope to be invited when they have another one, but this was a great first fall job fair for us.
Yeah, numbers on it.
We actually had 34 applicants day up. We met with a lot more, but we actually had 34 fill out an application. And so we have started testing them today, and we have more tests coming up tomorrow. And the goal is to interview them when we get back from Thanksgiving break.
Do you know how the job fair was publicized?
I saw it everywhere, like Instagram, Facebook, Nextdoor, emails were going out, and then they actually asked all of us that were attending to also post. And so Erica Corder was posting on Wiseburn's social media pages as well.
Thank you. It's great.
Yeah.
Did you feel like, something we've talked about before is trying to find more people of color to work in the district? Where did you feel like we got some more applicants that were more diverse at
Yeah,
this
we
job
actually,
fair?
it was nice to be back on a college campus and get recruitment, because it is definitely a little bit more diverse than just our own community. And so it was good. And this was also, although it was hosted at El Camino, it wasn't just El Camino students. We actually had folks from all over the place that were invited to also attend the job fair. And so it was nice to see a diverse group of students, adults that were looking for jobs.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you again, Dr. Dugal, for your creativity and pursuit of excellence. Appreciate it. Our Assistant Soup of Ed Services, Dr. Harbeck.
Hi, good evening. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
You know, this past Thursday, we were able to sponsor a full day of professional learning for our staff. I just want to update you on that. Our staff does professional learning all the time through teacher collaboration time, grade level meetings, staff meetings, and on their own time, of course. But last Thursday, it was a full day for our staff, and this included just a number of workshops for special education educators, for our English language development team, for our music educators and our intervention team, as well as our counseling care team. Our general ed teachers rotated, the TK through 5 rotated through 3 workshops focused on writer's workshop, mini lessons, and small group and individual conferencing, and mathematics through cognitively guided instruction strategies, and then the new science adoption. And our middle school worked through several workshops as well, focused on personalization of learning for their students and social emotional learning, looking at second step and that curriculum a little more closely. We received feedback from the surveys from all staff members on the effectiveness of the workshops. That was very positive on a scale of 1 to 4, 4 being the highest. We had an average of 94% positive feedback, 3 or 4 from our staff, both at the elementary and the middle school. We also we offered opportunities for open-ended responses and received great feedback that's going to help us understand where our steps go next for our next PD day in March. I just wanted to share an update. It was a great day. A lot of people involved. Thank you to the principals, to all the staff involved and Sarah Nitzos, who organized a large part of the day.
You know, Dr. Harbeck, the collaboration and engagement that you have led at our district has just made our teachers better, and certainly student outcomes. The PD that we're bringing, I have confidence, is excellent. Do we have any feedback? You mentioned feedback. Do we get feedback on these experiences that you say we're learning from? That give us any more on that?
Well, a lot of what we receive back from teachers they're wonderful. They have wonderful feedback. It's that they would like more time for planning, more time for collaborating. It's really about time for teachers, and you know, there's never enough of it, but that would be a big plus time for them.
Thank you very much. Dr. Silvers, our superintendent.
Hello. So I don't have a whole lot to talk about today, which is ironic and which is strange. I know. I do want to thank Nelson for joining me yesterday, or me joining him. I don't know, whatever it was at the there was an appreciation dinner for superintendents, local or LA County superintendents, and then various vendors in the construction industry. It was a chance to meet and discuss things, and it's just interesting how much you learn just in these short periods of time. And Nelson shared a lot of his expertise with me, which is very helpful, and just being able to talk to different Cisco was there, being able to talk to about technology and some of the possibilities that may be open to us. It was just really a nice event to be able to chat with people more informally, but be able to have those conversations and get contacts and listen to other school districts and see what they're doing in terms of school safety and those kinds of things. So thank you, Nelson, for joining me at that. With that, Also had a chance yesterday to be a part of the El Camino Citizens Bond Oversight. I am on the Citizens Bond Oversight Committee for Elko. And that's interesting too, because it's really intriguing to see what our students may, be a part of in the future. And they're just the work that they're doing, the projects that are on the list, it's really, really top-notch projects. And, I look forward to sticking with that group and being able to hopefully be a part to some degree of the improvements that they're gonna see at El Camino and for the students. So that was really nice. Also had a chance this week to join the WEF meeting, Ed Foundation meeting, I believe it was Tuesday night. And it just constantly reminds me of, just the support and the partnership and all of that. That WEF offers. It's just really welcoming and just they're in it for the right reasons, and certainly that partnership is just such a value to us. On the sort of the bad news side, we are struggling with technology right now. Well, thank you, Amir. We have a task for you to do tomorrow.
That one now.
No, but we have been struggling with what's it called? What's the thing? Firewall. Thank you. Sorry. It's not a hard word. But firewall system and exchanging our old one that was end of service, end of life, so to speak. We put in a new one, and Spectrum undersized it. And so, and then, just them coming out to assess the undersized unit took weeks, and then determining that they needed a new one and then ordering the new one. It's just been really, it's been really unfortunate. I'll just say, I think Spectrum needs to do a better job of communicating with us and really holding their line. And what they offered and were supposed to provide for the district, it really put us behind. And it took a lot of time and energy from people in this room and other people, let alone the fact that, our core teachers are in the room teaching, students with technology. They plan their lessons with technology, and it's just been, largely intermittent. While we may be seeing a little bit better service over the last couple of days, we did get a new firewall in, and I'm hoping to see a little bit of improvement. It's just not to the level that we would have expected. So I've heard Amir's going to fix it tomorrow. No, but we really need to address that. It's something that we're planning for. We're prepping for. We've reached out to several, thank you to Jason and Eileen for their time on this, reaching out to several vendors to get people in so that we can, address this as soon as possible, because there's also supply chain issues. So we're wanting to get in this queue so that we can have these items accessible for us to do an upgrade. But bottom line is, we are going to have to come to the board at one point with a pretty significant overhaul / replacement / upgrade of our entire infrastructure. It's probably going to be a $1.5 to $2 million project, but something that we're really needing. We're gonna kind of paperclip and band-aid together for now, just to get us through, to the end of the year, and hoping that the bond passes and that we're in a different position, come December, that, we really have these plans in place to be able to move forward quickly. So just wanted to give an update on that. It's just a frustration point for us right now, and just lack of support from a vendor we trusted. And I will just also say, I wanted to take this time because, we're going Thanksgiving break. I want to thank you all for just the time and energy, Rebecca putting into the bond, and Michelle and Eddie, really that leadership was really important and really valued. I want to thank, the teachers for their work. It's really been, it's so much navigating when you're in a school year, and there's always something, and we're coming off of COVID, and the restrictions are gone, and now we have internet issues, and it's one of those things that we're all, and just the way that teachers just professionally navigate those situations and are able to, be that rock and for the students, is really important and valued. To the team here, having, Eileen and Nisha, Peggy and Jason's here new. Jason's had to dive into pretty significant work, in just 6-7 weeks. And I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot to digest. It's a lot to filter, and it's a lot to learn. But really, the team here has just been remarkable. We saw Monique's presentation, and I think, I want to comment on, Monique's ability to come up with these phrases like fabulous. Let's taco about it. Counselors. It's all over every document. Some kind of, it's really awesome. But I mean, I just think, Jonathan was here, he's out painting car spaces today, or parking spaces. I mean, it's just really a team effort. And I just thank each of you for for what you've done and what you continue to do for the district and to support us. It's just really valuable. So thank you, and I wish everybody happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dr. Silvers. Indeed, we are blessed to have this team. Thank you. So now we'll move to our consent items. We're adopting a new consent agenda, which evidently we need to actually adopt as a.
Dr.
Item.
Bowman, I'm gonna get completely, I'm way off. I didn't mention Wendy Subaki, who is sitting right here. Absolutely. needs to
You know,
be-
I will absolutely pause for a mention of Wendy Sabaki.
Wendy Subaki is doing almost every job in the main office at this point. And, no, it's a lot. There's a lot going on, a lot of, like, we're really diversifying people's jobs right now. We have to do. And, just her and, Silka, it's really, it's a team effort. So I could not recognize Wendy.
Makes sense. Well, we thank the cabinet for the many jobs they're playing individually and the many jobs individually that you're playing for many. So thank you, Wendy. Now we'll move to the consent agenda and approving the consent agenda. I think we can have a motion for the entire consent agenda.
I will be happy to motion this.
Great. And our process, and a second, thank you. Our process is such that we can pull any of these, not pull them like take them off the agenda, but remove them for discussion if there's any items that you would so wish to discuss.
Yeah.
I hear none. All in favor of consent 7-1 through 7-11? Say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving to our action items, item 8. Receive the board policy for first reading 8.1. Motion, please.
A motion.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Mazzarella, you mentioned this to us earlier. Comment, Dr. Silver?
No, I was just asking, I didn't know if we had to vote on the acceptance of the first reading, but I guess we did.
Well, it's an action item, so
Yeah,
I presume we must. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 8.2, adopt resolution 2223, the opioid awareness and prevention item. Recognizing a resolution here, we'll post that on the screen. By the way, a comment here, first of all, a motion, if we could, please. You have a motion. Thank you, Nelson.
Second.
Thank you, Rebecca. A comment here that Dr. Silver and I were talking about the potential hundreds of resolutions we could have over the course of the year. And to evaluate those, I'm not sure what was the timing of that, to actually have an evaluation of which resolutions we may want to post at what time, so that we're being proactive here and not bombarded.
Yeah, I've talked to Dr. Ingram about this as well, and I think our plan is we wanted to go through this school year and monitor and manage, because we're gonna, unfortunately, we're gonna miss one here, miss one there, but then we can gather that into the list, and the goal would be, July or August, that we would actually present the board with a master list of resolutions. We'll try and get it to you soon enough to or early enough, I guess, where you could add, there's one that maybe we missed or you'd like to add. Maybe, I don't know, Monique, if there's a way that we can provide even a website where it has different resolution options. So maybe we can provide a host of different links or document resources so that, you have that information and then we present that to the board and we would then go through the year and have it planned beforehand.
I would definitely appreciate that. I think we missed both Indigenous Peoples' Day and now Native American Heritage Month. Because we have not, there are no resolutions for either of those on our agendas. Our next meeting is outside of Native American Heritage Month. So would absolutely welcome us thinking about that in advance. I think last year folks asked us to recognize Pride Month, or earlier this year was not something that we had on our agenda. So yeah.
Appreciate that. All in favor of 8.2?
Aye.
Moving to 8.3, approve Delaware preschool renovation costs. Thank you to Dr. Silvers and thank you to our partners at Da Vinci for the final number we arrived at, which is a win for hopefully everybody.
I'll move.
Thank you very much. Need a second?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 8.4, approve a proposal with Barber and Barber Incorporated. This is to review special ed costs. Motion, please.
I'll motion.
Thank you. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Question now, Dr. Shivers, you and I had spoken about a couple of these. Did you have a comment here before we proceed?
Yeah, Jonathan may be mad at me for this, but I am gonna, because I didn't share it with him, but I had a chance to talk to Jason. I wanna plan this a little differently. And when we looked at the deferred maintenance routine, restricted maintenance, I want to come with a more defined plan as to what each of those are and where we're moving money and putting money. It's a little concerning when we see the number dipping to $16,000 in deferred, and then, obviously there's some unknowns out there. So I'm gonna actually ask the board that we table or pull for now 8.5. Sorry,
And 8.7.
and 8.7.
If you didn't, I would, so. there you go.
All right. Fair enough.
Moving to.
We need a motion. I will make a motion actually to table 8.5 to 8.7 to a future board meeting after further review.
Is it 8.5, 6 and 7, or just 8.5 and 7?
It's just 8.5 and 8.7 because 8.6, that's our routine restrict. We need to do that. It's just the tree trimming.
And these are where I would have come from. These are material expenses exceeding $100,000. And again, to the comment I made earlier, I want us to have a plan.
Right.
Second, the motion to table 8.5 and 8.7.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Moving to 8.6, to your question, approve the proposal for district-wide tree trimming, again, as our typical event. Motion, please.
I'd like to make a motion for this.
Thank you.
But I'd like to make a motion for 8.6, 8.8, 8.9, and 8.10. Since they're kind of all related to the facility. And kind of Jonathan's presentation. If you're okay with that.
I'm okay. We need a
Okay.
second.
I'll second.
Thank you very much for efficiency. Martinez, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 8.11, approve settlement agreement. A motion,
I'll move.
thank you. Need a second, guys?
Second.
Thank you,
I have a question before we vote.
please.
So I know I want to be sure that I understand 8.11 and 8.14 are actually related to the same settlement.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. So the cost to the district of the settlement is not just $1,000, it's actually
Correct.
it's actually $31,000.
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Sorry, I'm not,
that's okay. I just wanted to clarify that I was reading those items correctly, because it's to provide the 200 hours of services. We need this contract under the settlement.
that is correct.
Okay.
And who set the motion in motion? Who set this motion? Who moved this motion for 8.11? The reason I ask is would you like to recall your motion and
Okay.
amend it to 8.11 and 14?
Yes, yeah, I'm happy to do that. So I will. I would like to amend my motion to be 8.11 and 8.14.
I will second that. Thank you.
So they can be considered together.
All in favor? Aye. 8.12, approve additional funds for Hop Skip Drive. Need a motion, please? Thank you.
Second. Just to clarify, this is not related to the settlement.
That is correct. It's related to transportation from last year.
Okay, thank you.
Again, a $1,200. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Finally, here, 8.13, master individual service agreements for the 22 and 23 school years.
I'll move.
Thank you. And a second, thank you. And Peggy, any comments here?
Oh, you know what? Was it 13 or 14? Sorry.
Did I 13?
13.
Ms. Cappy, you are right. So the 8.13 is related to the settlement agreement in 8.11. And 8.14 is not about me.
Do we need to reconsider the motion? Yeah. Because it was 8.11 and 8. I said 14. It
Yes.
should be 13, so.
So it's not
Move
approved.
to amend.
She approved.
I can,
Yeah, amend the approval.
yeah.
We combined 8.11 and 8.14. We should have combined 8.11 and 8.13, and that's in part on me, and I apologize.
So
You need to move to amend your.
you need me to, Wendy, what do we need to do?
Nothing, I've got it down that you have motion for 8.11 and 8.13.
Okay. All right, so you just fixed it on paper.
Who was the second by?
Dr. Goldman.
Okay.
We
And
should
this-
have those two items
back to back. I apologize.
Yeah, it happens. I guess we need to now vote on this. All in favor, 811 and 813? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you for
And
bearing
now
with
on
us.
to
folks.
8:14.
Now we got it. Sure, I've got my act together.
I'll motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Yes, and this is, again, we've used John many times in the past, so grateful for his service. Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. We did want at this point to talk about the upcoming board positions in item 9.1. In that our next board meeting in December, as we have one a month for November and December, we will be transitioning and nominating new folks for new positions. So if you can put that up, Wendy, kind of take a look and think about the positions you'd be interested in or nominating someone for. Martinez and I have had conversations, and it's the traditional role of the vice president and clerk to take the role of the president, because that's what has been done, and we knew that setting up. So although we won't be voting, Mr. Martinez, are you interested in that role?
I am interested.
Okay, great. I will nominate you next term with good confidence in your abilities and respect for your service. Thank you. And if we could take a look, just kind of think of the other areas. It is the tradition of the president to serve on the LCFA and the LSF. I can't get the two committees I referred to this evening. I actually would like to continue doing that, because I'm finally getting an understanding of what's involved in that. It takes a while. But it's certainly the president's prerogative, should you want to do that, if we in fact elect you. Just take a look, guys, at these positions. Rebecca, I don't know if you'd be interested in the WEF position, your relationships there.
So these are current
These
positions.
are
That's what I
current-
would.
Yeah, these are
Okay.
currently.
Are we discussing this now or are we?
I just want to make it aware of people, if there's any conversations.
If anybody's interested in.
Yeah, please share your interests.
Dr. Goldman, along those lines, I know you'd asked a question earlier about the reorganization and why it happens in December. That's statewide, that all school districts like that. It's not, yeah.
It's because
Election.
Oh, right.
First, so technically you have half a meeting in December.
Right.
Group, and then January.
I feel silly now. Thank you very much. Of course.
Like, for example, I think there's an opening on the facilities.
And
the
facilities.
Facilities committee, so somebody wants to join there.
And I want to make sure that Jason understands what, or has been introduced to the concept of the budget committee.
He has not yet.
Okay.
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely have that conversation.
Because I'd like to remain on that committee.
And
Absolutely.
this is the first time I've seen the whole list, so.
And I'll give you a printout as well.
So I don't have it. I will look at that as big as well as
So
possible.
we have done this traditionally in the past, but I wanted to just have a moment, so we're not surprised and we give it a thought. So we don't need to spend much more time here, but I wanted to alert all the board in respect to the Brown Act, can't talk about this offsite, that you will have this and have an opportunity to review it.
So I was just talking to Joanne about this. We used to have a technology
Committee.
working group. And I noticed we have one in light of your presentation, and now that Amir's here, we might want to consider that, like, leave that, we can actually have a conversation more, I guess, at the next meeting.
So Amir, one task will be that we're gonna start. No, that absolutely, I think that's a really good idea. I do.
And to that point, we have the Wiseman Da Vinci articulation representatives. The reality is that evolved into our subcommittee.
Right.
So I don't know if we want to just continue in that vein, and we'll talk more on that.
Sure.
If there is a technology committee, I would volunteer for that.
If we're gonna have technology, like, does Monique want a DEI fund?
Does Monique want to do what?
DEI committee.
Would you like to do that, Monique?
Not to put her on the spot.
No, that's great.
I'd be interested in that.
Different name. I mean, DEI is great, but I mean, I'm wondering if it's, do we want to talk about like DEI and outreach? I mean, I think it's important.
It could
to talk
be.
engagement.
Whatever, yes, some position, and I'm happy to,
That's awesome.
volunteer for that.
Yeah. Any other comments here?
I would just say, I believe Roger was interested in
Everything we didn't say.
The facilities, one. I want to say that either I talked to him, I thought I did, so I.
Well, the expertise that Nelson and Roger have would make perfect sense for one of them to be on it.
I mean, we have an opening there.
Yeah.
Is Roger still interested in those two committees, the council?
He always seemed to enjoy those, so I would be
I'm not ready to
surprised if
take a
not.
change.
Yeah, as would we. Yeah.
I echo that.
All right.
County committee still going, the school district reorganization?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And so LTFA and then the LPSFA meals that you said you wanted to.
I would be interested in continuing it, yeah. Unless Nelson wants that.
I'm okay with delegating that.
Well, there's two, I'm noticing, so one of them, it says board president and CBO. Because you have two members that are voting members.
Right.
So sometimes we've had two board members,
Right.
so maybe we should have a conversation next meeting too, do we want to have one staff and one board member?
I would recommend that. I noticed that they've done that.
Right.
The
So-
other
Yeah.
schools have done. It also allows you to delegate and have some expertise shared out, so unless you wanted to do it.
No, I think Jason would be.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I do too.
The reason I've enjoyed it because of building the relationships, I think those relationships are valuable. So, great. Thank you for that. I appreciate the time, a little extra, but it helps us be more efficient next meeting. Any other items or issues to address? Hearing none?
I do not.
Hearing none?
I was updating on this master calendar. I actually reached out to Erica today. She's gonna actually put together a much more comprehensible, more user-friendly master calendar for this 11 that we'll have at the end of every agenda. Just it's a little bit more editable. It'll just be a nicer version. And I think we talked about that in the meeting. So I just wanted to update.
Perfect.
Share that that's in the works.
Updates or comments from anybody else? All right, folks, we do need a second close. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, be safe. Test yourself for COVID when you come back and have a great Thanksgiving. This meeting is adjourned.